Marianne, it's time to close the casket, the pastor said softly. With a heart shattered into a million pieces, I prepared to say my final goodbye to my daughter, Emily. She was gone so suddenly it still felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I was about to nod when a soft voice interrupted the moment. "Grandma, Mommy wants you to look at her tummy." Chloe, my 5-year-old granddaughter, was looking up at me with a bewildering seriousness. "Honey, what are you saying?" I asked, confused, trying to make sense of her words. She insisted, her big, piercing eyes locked on mine. "Mommy said it's important. Look, Grandma." Something in Chloe's conviction made me hesitate. The pain of the loss and the absurdity of the situation were clashing, but I decided to honour her request. When I finally looked, what I found was beyond anything my mind could conceive. Welcome to Velvet Vendetta. If you're enjoying this story, subscribe to the channel and like the video to catch all our upcoming tales. My name is Marianne Foster. I'm 65 years old and live in a small town in Ohio where everyone knows each other, or at least they think they do. I've spent more than 4 decades here, but I never imagined my life would take such a cruel turn. Since my husband George's death 10 years ago, my daughter Emily and my granddaughter Chloe were my entire world. Emily, at 27, was a teacher full of life, whose smile could light up any room. Now, that light has been extinguished. And Chloe, with her curious blue eyes, is the only reason I'm still standing. It all started a month ago. Emily fell ill suddenly. We thought it was just the flu, but with each passing day, she got worse. She lost her appetite, suffered terrible pains in her abdomen, and had a relentless fever that defied any explanation. Neither the local doctors nor the specialists at the big city hospital could figure it out. Last Thursday, my daughter simply stopped breathing. It was fast. Too fast. They called it an acute illness. I call it a mystery. Now, as I prepare for the funeral at St. Mary's Church, where Emily was baptised and married, I feel my heart being crushed by an invisible weight. The place is decorated with white flowers, and Emily's smile watches us from the photo on the altar, as if to say, "I'm okay." But nothing is okay. I hold Chloe's hand as she stares at her mother's picture, confused, trying to understand a world that no longer makes sense. And deep down, I know the answer we're so desperately seeking is closer than we imagine. "Grandma, when is Mommy going to wake up?" Chloe's question cuts through my heart like a sharp knife. I can't find the words. I just hug her, trying to project a strength I don't have myself. The pastor begins the service, but his words are lost in the heavy silence. Then, in the middle of that suffocating atmosphere, Chloe leans forward, her eyes fixed on a distant point. "Grandma," she whispers. "Mommy's here." My whole body freezes. What do you mean, Chloe?" My heart pounds wildly. She points toward the altar where Emily's photo rests with a serenity that seems to mock our present pain. "She's talking to me." A chill runs down my spine. Chloe has always been different. Sometimes she'd say she saw things no one else could. "And what is she saying?" I ask, my voice trembling. Chloe doesn't look away. She's sad. She wants to tell you something about her tummy. Her tummy. I swallow hard, my mind racing. Why would Emily talk about that? Something was deeply wrong. Before I could process it, Daniel Fisher, the owner of the funeral home, approached. "Mrs. Foster, is everything all right?" I've known Daniel for 30 years. He's helped many families say goodbye to their loved ones, but now I had a peculiar request. "Daniel," my voice sounds firm despite the whirlwind inside me, "can I see Emily one more time?" He hesitates, surprised. "Of course, but are you sure? It can be very painful." I nod with determination. "I'm ready." Daniel leads me to a silent room. There, Emily rests under a white sheet. He gently lifts the cloth, revealing my daughter's serene face. She looked like she was only sleeping. but we knew she wasn't. "Daniel, show me her stomach," I ask, my voice trembling but resolute. He hesitates again but obeys. When Emily's abdomen is exposed, a large purple and black bruise dominates the scene. The sinister stain covers a large part of her skin, something that shouldn't be there. "I've never seen anything like this," Daniel murmurs, visibly confused. "Me neither." What was it? How long had it been there? Why hadn't anyone seen it before? 1,000 questions bubbled in my mind. "Daniel, take a picture of this. Please," I asked with renewed determination. Something was wrong, and I wouldn't rest until I found out the truth. He looked at me, startled, but took out his phone and captured the images. I needed the truth. I held Emily's cold hand, whispering, "Forgive me, my child, but I'm going to find out what happened to you. For you, and for Chloe." I left the room with a lump in my throat. Before closing the door, I murmured one last promise. "Rest in peace, Emily. I will find who did this to you." In the days following the funeral, I began to sort through Emily's belongings. The pain was overwhelming. Every time I entered her room, it felt as if her scent still lingered in the air, her presence trapped in the walls by sadness. As I was packing her clothes into boxes, my eyes fell on something unexpected. A small box hidden behind a bookshelf. With trembling hands, I opened it and found a diary. On the cover, 3 words. My secret. Just me. I hesitated. Should I open it? A part of me screamed no, that I should respect Emily's privacy. But the other part, the one that craved answers, couldn't be ignored. I took a deep breath and opened the first page. Every word I read was like a knife to the chest. He hit me again today, but I can't tell anyone. I have to endure it for Chloe. My stomach still hurts from being kicked so much. I'm scared to go to the hospital, scared they'll ask questions. I think he's putting something in my food, but I have no proof. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Each line shattered what was left of my heart. My sweet Emily, suffering in silence, abused by her own husband, Robert. And I was blind. Blind to the hell she was living every day. The pain inside me quickly transformed into a burning rage, a fury that felt like it was scorching my skin. How could he do that to her? How could Emily hide something so devastating? The bruise, the mysterious illness. It all made sense now. This wasn't an accident. It was intentional. And I had to act. Without wasting a moment, I called Sarah, Emily's best friend. If anyone knew something, it would be her. "Sarah," my voice was steady. But on the other end of the line, Sarah's voice trembled. There was hesitation, a clear weight in her words. "Emily told me some things," she began, "but she made me promise I'd never tell anyone." My throat tightened. "Sarah, please. I need to know. You don't understand. This is far beyond a promise." There was a long silence. I could hear Sarah's heavy breathing, as if she was struggling to find the right words. After a few moments, she began to speak, still hesitant, choosing each word carefully. "Emily. Emily wasn't exactly the wife you imagined, Marianne. She was involved with another man. She cheated on Robert." Sarah's voice was almost a whisper, as if each word burned her. But she knew she had to tell the truth. My heart stopped for a moment. Betrayal? Emily? It seemed impossible. "She was with another man and Robert found out. After that, he changed, Marianne. He became cold, distant. He didn't know how to handle the betrayal. I know what he did was cruel, but maybe he didn't have a choice. He was broken." I took a deep breath, trying to contain the fury boiling inside me. "Are you saying Robert's cruelty is justifiable? Nothing justifies the suffering he caused my daughter Sarah. Nothing. Sarah sighed heavily, as if carrying an unbearable burden. I know, Marianne, but sometimes that's the price you pay for betrayal. No, Robert was devastated. Emily knew what she did was wrong. Maybe her illness wasn't just physical. Sometimes the body reflects guilt. Maybe she got sick because she couldn't bear the weight of what she did. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sarah was implying my daughter got sick from guilt? That she deserved what happened to her because of one mistake? It was inconceivable. Sarah, this doesn't make sense. The change in Robert, Emily's illness, something else is going on. This can't just be about guilt. My voice was firm, but every word carried a rising anger. Sarah could try to sugarcoat the truth, but I knew there was something much darker hidden beneath it all. Everything was starting to click into place. Thank you for telling me. My voice came out stronger than I expected. Now I need to find out what really happened. The truth will come out, and whatever it is, I will find it. I hung up the phone with a renewed purpose. There was no more time for tears or doubt. It was time to act. I went straight to Chloe's room. She was playing quietly with her dolls on the floor, oblivious to the chaos surrounding us. I knelt beside her, trying to keep my voice steady, despite the weight of responsibility I felt. Chloe, Grandma needs to do something very important for Mommy. Will you help me? She looked at me with those big blue eyes, so much like Emily's, and nodded. Yes, Grandma, if it's for Mommy. Her innocence shattered my heart. I knew I was about to walk down a dark path, but I had no choice. It was for Emily. It was for Chloe. With Emily's diary and Sarah's testimony in hand, I went directly to the police. Detective Miller received me with the skepticism of someone who has heard too many improbable stories. But I wasn't there to play games. Mrs. Foster, this is very serious, he said after examining the evidence. We'll need to conduct a full investigation. Can we count on your complete cooperation? You can count on me, I replied without hesitation. From that moment on, my life became a relentless search for the truth. I met with the police several times, providing every piece of evidence that emerged. We reviewed Emily's medical records, they examined every corner of her house, and they even analysed hair samples. Meanwhile, Robert went on with his life, buried in work as if nothing had happened. Chloe spent more time with me, unaware of the web of betrayal and lies we were unravelling. Then, about a week later, the phone rang. It was Detective Miller. Mrs. Foster, we've made a significant discovery, he said, his voice heavy with urgency. We found traces of arsenic in Emily's hair. My world stopped. Arsenic? Poison? The word escaped my lips like a whisper. Yes, the detective confirmed. Emily was slowly poisoned over time. There's clear evidence of prolonged arsenic poisoning. My legs grew weak. My daughter was being murdered, little by little, without anyone noticing. I knew it. I knew Robert was behind this. Now, with this discovery, the truth was beginning to surface. We're investigating the source of the arsenic, Miller continued. There are records that Robert had access to hazardous chemical compounds at the company where he works. But we need more evidence to formally charge him. I gripped the phone tightly. The truth was closer, but it wasn't enough. Robert had to feel it. He had to pay for every second of pain he inflicted on my daughter. And I would make sure he felt every drop of that agony. Robert Foster worked at a chemical company, and that's where the police discovered his easy access to dangerous compounds like arsenic. He thought he had gotten away with it, but the end was near, and it would be cruel. As Detective Miller presented all the evidence, a single question echoed in my mind. Did he ever love Emily? The woman he promised to share his life with? The mother of his child? If there was a betrayal, why not just end it? Why not move on and rebuild his life instead of condemning her to a slow, cruel death? Was it pure evil? Or was there something even darker at play? "Marianne, we found more," Detective Miller said, his words careful, as if he already knew the impact they would have. "During the investigation, we reviewed Robert's communications, and we found messages between him and Sarah." My heart sped up. Sarah? Emily's best friend? No, that couldn't be true, but Miller continued, his expression grim. "The messages suggest that Sarah and Robert had been having an affair for months, and worse, she knew about the poisoning. They were in this together, Marianne. Robert planned to kill Emily to collect the life insurance money, and Sarah was part of the whole thing." The floor disappeared from under my feet. I struggled to comprehend Miller's words, but each sentence was a blade cutting into my soul. Sarah, an accomplice in my daughter's murder. The woman who stood by my side, who cried with me at the funeral, who held my hand while I suffered, was conspiring to kill her. This can't be true. Not Sarah, I whispered, my voice failing. But the evidence was there, undeniable. Miller handed me copies of the messages, words full of hatred, lies, and a wicked plan. Robert and Sarah had planned everything, every detail, to get rid of Emily and keep the money. Rage boiled inside me, but I held it back. I needed to be strong. "I need to talk to her," I said, my voice colder than I ever imagined. Miller hesitated. "Marianne, I don't know if that's a good idea, but if you really need to, be careful." I left the police station with an icy determination. Sarah needed to explain herself. I needed to hear from her own mouth just how far her betrayal went. "Marianne?" Sarah began, her voice feigning concern. "Why did you call me?" My rage seethed inside, but I kept my gaze cold and penetrating. "Are you sure you don't know why you're here, Sarah?" She blinked, feigning confusion, as if she were the very picture of innocence. "I don't know, Marianne. Can you explain it to me?" That was enough to make me explode. "Enough, Sarah!" I shouted, my voice thick with fury. "Aren't you tired of lying? You tried to paint my daughter as a traitor when in reality, you are the real Judas in this story." For a moment, silence filled the air. The mask of innocence Sarah was trying to maintain finally crumbled. Her eyes narrowed, and instead of remorse, I saw something dark and cruel emerge. She gave a small, almost satisfied smile, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "Judas? Marianne?" She laughed, a bitter cold sound. "You think I'm the villain? Oh, if only you knew." She took a step forward, her expression hardening. "Emily wasn't the saint you think she was. She was weak. She always was. And you know what else? She deserved everything that happened to her." My heart froze. "What are you saying?" "What I'm saying, Marianne, is that your daughter was nothing but a coward. Robert was tired of her, tired of maintaining that sham of a marriage. She never knew how to satisfy him." Sarah moved closer, her voice low and venomous. "He always wanted me. He always looked at me. I was what he needed. I was what he sought all along." The rage was burning inside me, but I let her continue. I needed to hear everything this snake had to say. "When she found out about us, Marianne, it was almost pathetic. She cried, she humiliated herself, she tried to save the marriage. And you know what Robert did? He laughed. He laughed in her face. He told her it was over. He already had the plan." My mind was spinning. Sarah had not only betrayed my daughter, she was reveling in Emily's pain. "You think I just stood by? I helped Robert. I agreed to poison her. We watched her wither away in front of everyone, with no one noticing. It was almost fun." I was trembling with indignation, but Sarah continued without a hint of remorse. "I saw the desperation in her eyes. She knew she was dying. And you know what the worst part is, Marianne? I loved every second of it. Emily disgusted me. Everyone thought she was so perfect, but she was just a weak, worthless woman. She needed to disappear. Tears burned in my eyes, but I held them back. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. I was facing a monster, someone who had hidden behind a smile for years, while destroying my daughter from the inside out. And the best part of all, Sarah continued with a wicked grin, was seeing you there at the funeral, crying by my side with no idea that I was behind it all. You were crying for her while I knew that deep down it was all part of our plan. Emily's life insurance money was our prize. My whole body was shaking. You and Robert took everything from her. For money? For envy? For pure cruelty? Sarah leaned in, her face almost touching mine, contempt radiating from every word. Yes, Marianne, we did. And she couldn't do anything about it. She was just an obstacle, something we needed to remove. When she finally died, it was like seeing freedom. Our freedom. My hands were trembling, my heart pounding. I wanted to scream, to hit, to destroy something. But above all, I wanted justice. I couldn't let this woman get away with it. You're wrong, Sarah, I said coldly, every word laced with hatred. You may have destroyed my daughter, but I am going to destroy both of you. Sarah's smile faltered, but she tried to maintain her composure. You think you can threaten me, Marianne? No one will believe you. I stepped closer, looking her directly in the eyes. I don't need threats, Sarah. I have proof. Robert is in custody. And you will fall right along with him. And you know what's worse? Even though my daughter is in heaven, she will never leave you in peace. I will drag you and Robert to hell. Sarah took a step back, panic beginning to show in her eyes. She knew my threat wasn't empty. There, in the silence of the park, an idea took shape in my mind. If Robert and Sarah wanted to destroy Emily, I would make sure they were both destroyed. I wouldn't rely solely on the court's justice. That would be too easy. They needed to feel what Emily felt. The growing fear, the slow agony of death, the uncertainty of each day. I would do it meticulously, every step carefully orchestrated. In the following days, I continued my role as a devoted grandmother and a grieving woman. But in secret, I began to weave my revenge. Sarah and Robert would pay, not just with prison, but with every piece of their lives shattered. First, Sarah. I knew she was growing paranoid since our last meeting, so I decided to feed that fear. Anonymous messages began arriving at her house. Messages that said things like, "Emily is watching," or "She knows what you did." I sent them from different locations, using burner phones that were impossible to trace. The messages arrived at all hours of the day, always short, always hinting at Emily's presence, watching her. Sarah began to unravel. The few times I saw her around town, her eyes were swollen, her movements tense as if she were carrying the weight of the world. She was always looking over her shoulder, waiting for something or someone. Every message I sent was a reminder that she had no escape. But that was just the beginning. I wanted Sarah to feel Emily's presence all around her, like a constant, inescapable shadow. With the help of Chloe, who still saw her mother in her dreams, I began to manipulate small things in Sarah's life. Withered flowers, Emily's favourites, mysteriously appeared on Sarah's doorstep. Her car radio would unexplainably play the songs Emily loved, the ones only she listened to. And at night, as she tried to sleep, unsettling whispers echoed through the house. Soft knocks on the walls, murmurs that spoke her name. Sarah was on the verge of madness. The police were already investigating her involvement, but my revenge was far from over. While Sarah succumbed to fear and guilt, I turned my attention to Robert. Robert's arrest was swift, but the process was anything but simple for me. As the evidence began to mount, the net closed in. The police were ready. I vividly remember the day they arrested him. I was there, watching from a distance, my heart pounding with a mix of rage and relief. Robert was leaving for work as if nothing was wrong, as if he weren't the author of an atrocious crime. But then the patrol cars arrived. The officers surrounded him, and he stood frozen for an instant, surprised. His eyes met mine for a fraction of a second. In that moment, I saw the first glint of fear on his face. He knew. He knew it was all unravelling. There was no resistance. They handcuffed him and put him in the police car without a struggle. As they drove him away, I felt a wave of bitter satisfaction. But at the same time, it wasn't enough. Prison was just the beginning. Robert would be tried and most likely convicted. But that wasn't enough. The justice of the law wasn't enough for someone who destroyed my daughter so cruelly. I wanted him to suffer. And I would make sure of it. Robert was already incarcerated, awaiting his trial. But for me, that wasn't the end. I wanted him to know there was no escape, that everything he did would come back to him in a way he could never imagine. With the help of some contacts I made in the prison, nothing that money and influence can't arrange, I began sending letters directly to Robert. They were perfect imitations, in Emily's handwriting. Each letter contained the words he used to destroy her, now turned into daggers aimed at him. You called me weak. Now I'm the one watching you every night while you sleep. I'll be waiting for your freedom to end, Robert. Your time is running out. The effect was devastating. Robert, already mentally weakened by prison, began to fall apart rapidly. He would scream at night, claiming Emily was coming for him. The prison guards noted his mental collapse, commenting on how he refused to sleep in the dark, saying that Emily would appear in the corners of his cell. Robert constantly begged to be transferred, as if changing cells could distance him from the presence I had created. But no matter where they moved him, Emily would be there, because I would bring her back to him every night, in every dark corner, in every heavy silence he tried to avoid. As Sarah sank into paranoia and Robert lost control of his sanity, I prepared the final blow. Robert's final hearing was approaching, and I needed to ensure they were both destroyed, not just by the law, but by public shame. I wanted everyone to see what they really were. Monsters. I began to gather additional evidence about their relationship, more intimate evidence, including recordings of calls the police didn't yet have. I planned to leak them to the press, ensuring the scandal would spread like wildfire. When that evidence came out, Sarah's name would be dragged through the mud right alongside Robert's. On the day of the hearing, everything was set. The courtroom was packed with journalists, and when the new evidence was revealed, the messages, the recordings, Sarah was unmasked in front of everyone. The look on her face as she saw the contempt in the eyes of the entire town was priceless. The control she had over her image crumbled. She tried to hide behind lies and manipulation, but now she was completely exposed. She wasn't just an accomplice. She was a murderer, a traitor. The scandal spread just as I had planned. Sarah lost everything, her reputation, her freedom, her sanity. She was convicted as an accomplice to murder and sent to the same prison as Robert. Now they were trapped in the same hell they had created. But for me, true justice was just beginning. Robert and Sarah were destroyed, but their suffering was far from over. They would live every day of their miserable lives with the weight of Emily haunting their minds. Every night, they would be tormented by the ghosts of their choices. I would make sure their souls never found peace, that every moment of their lives was consumed by the memory of the woman they betrayed and killed. And I would watch them from a distance, in silence, knowing that just as they destroyed my daughter, I was now destroying them, piece by piece. Emily could finally rest in peace. But Sarah and Robert, they would live forever with the shadow of Emily lurking. Thank you for watching this story on Velvet Vendetta. If you want to see justice served, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video.